This is Selling Seven Figures with your host, Kevin Mullaney. Join him in a panel of 4 high-achieving distributors and start crushing your sales goals.
What is up, internet world? Welcome to Selling Seven Figures, a monthly mini-series designed to help distributors, salespeople crush their goals. I'm your host, Kevin Mullaney. I'm joined by Amanda Clay from Walker Clay, Nanette Gray from Lemonade Creative Marketing, Katie Kaler from American Solutions for Business, and David Keneally from Brand Hero Geiger. Today's episode will uncover the worst advice that new salespeople can receive, why it can lead to frustration and setbacks. We'll also explore the key areas you should focus on to build a strong foundation in sales. So let's get started. So we are getting towards the end of the year. It's crazy to think that 2024 is already behind us. So I want to start out with you, Katie. It seems like it's been a fun, adventurous year for you. What's your favorite memory so far?
So I was able to go on a trip to see one of our good friends get married in Bali this year. But since this episode is being featured in November, I'm going to preemptively say that my wedding will be my favorite memory this year.
I love it. Well, I hope the Bali trip was awesome. And again, congrats early on the nuptials. Nanette, what about you?
Yeah, I think I didn't go to Bali. I would love to. That's on the wish list. But getting a chance to do a lot more traveling this year, with my kids being older and the business getting to a point where I could step away a little bit more. It's been an awesome year of travel. So Italy and Mexico and Utah. But yeah, that's been my favorite memory so far.
I love it. And David, you and I just became Facebook friends in 2024, and it has been fun to watch your journey. What's been your favorite memory so far?
Well, everything looks great on Facebook, but in reality, I'm grinding it out and having a decent year, but it's been killing me. So I would say kind of doubling down and investing in myself, given how much work that I do and sitting here at this desk, at least 14 hours a day. I would say hiring a personal trainer and finally seeing some results and making some progress. You can always see the progress in yourself, and it takes another 6 weeks for everyone else to see the progress. Well, I'm really kind of focusing on my health and well-being.
I'd love to hear that. How about you, Mandy? You've had some fun trips too.
Actually, funny story that it's you that's on this, because I did have a fun trip and I feel like it was great heading to Toronto because I got to remember the first time I met you.
Oh,
I believe you were in a hockey neck the first time I met you.
Yeah.
And there was stress balls.
Yeah. It was a simulator. I was a goalie, and I think I even took my shirt off halfway through the night.
You Happy Gilmore did.
Thought I was going to protect the goal a little bit better that way. We'll have more fun times to recollect about those types of events. Well, hey, so speaking of making bad decisions, how about a life in sales, right? So again, I think that you guys can see at 40 years old, this gray hair is alive and well, and it's because I've been doing sales for roughly 20 years. So I always tell people that are interested in a career in sales, I almost try and sell them out of it. Right, where I want to make sure that when they're making this decision to jump into this awesome career, that they know what they're getting into. So I think my first question to this team is, what should someone ask themselves whether they get out of college, get out of school, or ready to embark on their career journey? What should they ask themselves before they consider a life in sales? David, if you don't mind, I'm going to start with you.
I would have to say, do you believe in yourself? Are you willing to make a commitment to succeed no matter what? Are you willing to put in those hours up front, get those 10,000 hours to be an expert, to make stuff happen? It helps, I think, if you have thicker skin, which I don't. I have very thin skin, and it has been problematic for me through my career, but I've learned from it. And it built a better David 2.0 to succeed. But you really have to want to do it. You have to love to do it. It has to be a passion, and you have to be up for the challenge. So if you can answer yes to those types of questions, then you have the drive to make it happen.
It's really phenomenal feedback. Mandy?
I would say pick a product that you believe in. Like I, right out of college, took a job and I was like selling ad space, and people would ask me all the time, like, why should I buy this? And I was like, you really shouldn't. You should buy promotional products. So I think like picking the, like, you can be in sales in one industry and be terrible, but then move to an industry that you really love. So I think the biggest thing would be to pick the right place and make sure you're passionate about the product or services you're selling.
Katie?
I would say ask yourself, how do you handle rejection? I think one of the most important things you can be in sales is resilient and gritty to be successful. And then, as a follow up to that, is what's your outlet for stress management? Make sure it's a healthy one. I thought I had a stressful job, especially during the holidays in retail, but it's really different when ultimately it's the face in the mirror. You're responsible for everything that's happening in your business.
Really good advice. Annette?
I think Katie mentioned it as far as resilience, but am I adaptable? Can I thrive in an unpredictable environment? And also, as far as facing rejection, can I still remain positive? So having the ability to bounce back with positivity, I think is very, very important in sales.
Yeah, I think my first advice for someone that's thinking about a career in sales is to find a partner, a life partner that is not in sales, so that you can have some stability in your life and maybe some sanity, to be perfectly candid. Now, I think the biggest thing that we struggle with in sales, and David actually referred to it in the working out and getting healthy, mantra, but it is hard in sales oftentimes to see early success. Okay. So thinking back to your early stages, and let's just focus on this industry, or if you have experience from another one, that's great. But, for someone like myself who's starting a new career, a new industry, I think that's one thing that I've had to really be a little bit easy on myself, is to make sure that the work that I'm putting in right now is going to pan out later. What are the things that you would suggest that people should focus on during those early stages, whether it's training, being around successful people, or just soaking it in? Mandy, would you mind starting us off there?
Yeah, I think shadowing people is important, but also like to don't get frustrated. Like if you're doing all the things that are going to get you the sale, just keep doing them, because those things are going to happen. Like sometimes when somebody says no, like you have to like sit down and be like, all right, sweet, I'm one close. Like if I know every 1 out of 10 I'm getting a yes, well, great. I just need 8 more no's, and then I'm going to get a yes. So making sure you're doing those things, and then also like don't like stop and then maybe take a customer or client that doesn't fit your mold just to get a number. Like stay focused on the type of client that's going to get you to your goal, because like those things become distractions down the road. I would say that was my advice.
Nanette, what about you?
I think authenticity and being genuine is going to be one of the key components that a person has to focus on when they're in sales, because I think in terms of being, your authentic self, you're able to connect with people a little bit better. And so I think that's one of the things that you really need to focus on, because at the end of the day, people buy from who they know, they like, and they trust.
Awesome. Now, Katie, I apologize. I know that you've got a wedding coming up. Is your partner in sales?
He is not.
Yay.
I think you got to keep her
for the win.
I love it. Go ahead. What would your thoughts be here?
Great advice so far. I would say make a plan, work your plan, and also know that none of it's going to go to plan. I still have my list of my top 10 prospects from when I first started, and I don't sell to any of them 4 years later, but it really helped me understand, who I wanted to work with, even though it's changed a lot since then, what I'm good at, form your sales pitch and just keep forward thinking. To Amanda's point, don't take a client or don't cut your pricing just to make a sale. You definitely want to be thinking future and long term. Luckily, we're in a sales industry where our best clients we get to sell to multiple times every week, every month, for many years, even decades, hopefully.
David, round us out here.
How about talking to other people that are in sales, going out and asking their advice? Maybe even pick up a mentor. Maybe it's it's your boss, your supervisor there, or maybe it's just someone that's established in the industry that you admire. Direct mentor doesn't have to be kind of a line relationship there. But then when you talk to these people, don't always take it as gospel. You may hear different answers from different people. So survey those folks, pick what makes sense for you and embrace it. And kind of like, a lot of salespeople are jaded. So you take the good, you leave the bad behind, and you grow.
Yeah, that's really good advice. I would always say for someone new is take someone out to lunch. And I would take two people out to lunch. One person who you're selling to, hey, what do you like from someone like me? What do you dislike from someone like me? Like, hey, before I get started and fall on my face, what does an ideal person look like that's trying to sell to you? And then obviously the top producer. What's that person doing different than everybody else? And it also comes through with you and the feedback you're providing. But once you have that person that, again, I think someone said it on the last event, people love to talk about themselves. Take that top producer out to lunch, ask them all the questions, and then all of a sudden they're going to feel like they're involved in your success, and they're going to bring you along on some meetings. They're going to be more willing to be, again, invested in watching you succeed. So when you take that new job, save a little bit of money, be ready to take somebody out to lunch.
And I love that part, Kevin. I love taking out to lunch. So good job.
I appreciate that. So transitioning over here, we hear a lot of bad habits, and I think in this industry may have gotten a bad rap over 20, 30 years of being catalog pushers or some of the other things that we may not love to hear about our industry. What would you say is some of the worst advice you've heard from a sales mentor, a sales leader, or maybe even you may have heard from something that your competition is doing? What's the worst thing you've heard from the sales side? And then I'll go back to you on this.
Well, I mean, this is a very common phrase, always be closing, the ABCs. And I think just focusing on the close, I mean, yeah, you begin with the end in mind, but sometimes you shortcut things in order to get to the close. And I think it's very important to understand your client, to know what things can bring them value. Because you don't want to be the stereotypical used car salesperson, where all they're focused on is the sale. And, when you're dealing with people, they can feel when that's all you're doing is they're being sold to. So having a better understanding of what the client's needs are and how you can help them solve those needs, I think is what really, really sets you apart as a good salesperson.
Yeah, really great advice. David?
Do it like me. I just talked about
yes.
No, I just talked about how you're going to go off and talk about what works for different people. So if I have two young adult children in the business now, and I make sure it's not paint by numbers. Don't just do it like me. You got to do it like you. You're a different personality. My daughter and I are pretty similar in personality, so she kind of does it like me a little bit, but better, quite frankly. And my son's a different personality. He's got to find his own way, and he's doing that. He's selling his way. But again, take all that information and do it the way you think is best.
Nope, spot on. There's no one more you than you. It's exactly right. And it just doesn't feel natural when you're trying to replicate somebody else. I'm going to give you a throwback. I don't know if anyone remembers the Cool Runnings movie, but the Swiss had this pregame thing that they did, and they tapped each other on the helmet, and then the Jamaicans tried to do it, and he was like, what are you doing, man? It just wasn't the Jamaican guys, right? Like, I know that's the weirdest analogy ever, but I always think about that when you're trying to get outside of your own comfort zone, but you're not yourself, right? It's cool to try new things and try to put yourself out there, but never lose track of who you are. I think, gosh, I'm really throwing you guys out for loops today. I apologize. Katie, how about you? Any terrible advice you've heard?
Yeah, I think just like the mentality of do whatever you can to get the sale, right? Like when we think of, the salespeople we don't like talking to or don't like working with, they give us all a bad rap for that reason, whether it's lying or over promising. So I really think, we talk about this a lot, but I would much rather, have an honest conversation or let an opportunity go and keep the relationship intact. I think that's much more important, especially in our business.
Yeah. Mandy?
I would say like kind of like piggybacking off David, but like don't be afraid to the advice I get was to, hey, do it this way because like you have to make phone calls. And I'm like, well, I like email. So yes, I make phone calls, but like when I started, like email wasn't a thing. And I was like, hey, what if I emailed people my age? They might think that's cool. And it's okay to try different things. So I think sometimes when you're looking to like a salesperson that maybe has some experience, they're teaching you their way, but like you can always take their way and use pieces of it to do it your way, if that makes sense. So I'm sure like that's kind of what David's saying with his daughter. And I have that with my dad. I think he made a bet with me that I couldn't sell pens on the phone, I think was the first bet he made. He did not win. But because he was an in-person guy all the time. He's like, gotta go in person. And I was like, well, I got this guy's phone number. It's a pen. Like they know what it looks like. It's a Bic. We all know what that looks like. Why can't I sell that on the phone?
Yeah.
So it's okay to try something different, but like if you're gonna try something different and go rogue, you better like know when to cut bait if it doesn't work. Yeah. You can go rogue if you produce, but you can't go rogue if you can't get results.
Now we've got a little bit of time left. I'd love to hear y'all's feedback on this. Now, again, thinking to your early stage of your sales career, what do you think about the term "fake it till you make it"? And I'll start with you, Katie, if you don't mind.
Fake it till you make it.
I love the term fake it till you make it. I was a big proponent early on of, we've done this before. We like just the collective we of my colleagues or my team, even though I hadn't done that particular project, I could still speak to it. So I think it just gave me a little bit more credibility early on. And it's also a confidence thing, right? So much of sales is being confident in, what you're doing. So I'm a big fan of fake it till you make it. But don't be scared to say, I don't know that answer. Let me get back to you.
Yeah, I think that was the great thing. I think I've mentioned this a couple of times. I never consider myself a product expert, but more of a project expert, right? I didn't know exactly every single detail of every product, but I could always find out, right? And that's okay to not know the answer. But I think, and I'll let everyone else jump in on the fake it till you make it. Mandy, fake it till you make it, starting out in a sales career.
Yeah, I would say like that helps like in a way of saying like, be confident, like go in with confidence, because if I'm talking to a supplier and they sound like they don't know what they're doing, it happened to me today. And I was like, are you sure? Because I don't know, like, I don't feel confident that we have the right project here. So I think part of like, it's not faking, it's acting like you're confident enough. Like, yeah, I'm going to get the answers at the end of the call. It's not that I can't do it. It's just that I'm being confident so that the customer feels that sense of like, my job is to make the customer's job easy. If I sound uneasy, then like, how am I making their job easier? So I think a lot of it, I'm not necessarily faking it. Like, I know I can do it. I just have to make sure that I'm communicating that to the client so that they feel like, okay, she's got it. And I do. Like, there's probably people behind me that are going to manage the details, but it's going to happen. So I think it's more of like confidence. I think kind of like what Katie said.
Yeah. David, fake it till you make it.
Kinda, sorta. I'm a very transparent person, and unfortunately, I've talked my way out of sales as well, purposely. But if it's not in my personal wheelhouse, I will tell the client that. But if it's in our company's core competency, I'm gonna be straight with them and tell them. So I don't have the answer to that, but we have people in the team here that are experts in that world. And if we are in that, what we're being asked to do, then I'll be very, very confident and ask for the opportunity. But I'm not just going to BS my way into something that I don't know anything about.
Yeah, agreed. Nanette, round us out here.
Yeah, so I'm in alignment with Katie as far as we. I mean, you would think that I was French when I first started. I was a solopreneur, but we, so that was one of the ways to help and build a little bit more credibility. But as far as continuing to overpromise and underdeliver, I mean, that's one of the challenges that you can fall into with fake it till you make it. But I love to focus on underpromising and over-delivering, because it's like Christmas for the client. If you say, hey, we're going to have this rush order to you on X day and you get it to them 2 days early, I mean, it makes you look like a superhero. So from that perspective of underpromising and over-delivering, I'm really on board with that. But yeah, sometimes you do have to do like Katie said and do the we.
Well, these four are superstars for a reason. They're on this podcast for a reason because they're selling seven figures consistently. Always feel free to reach out to them on their socials, except when Katie's on her honeymoon, okay?
Yeah, Katie.
Thanks for tuning in. I hope you all join us next month for our final episode of this 8-part series. You can check us out all of our episodes.
Final already?
The finale. Thanks, everyone.